Welcome to the Painting Coach, and in this video I'm asking the pertinent question of the time. Should I get the new Kill Team starter set? So first things first, a big thank you to Games Workshop for sending me the Kill Team starter set ahead of time. I'm really excited to dive in and see what the content is like. Now, straight off the bat, this is a fairly reasonably priced box in the UK. I think it's £67.50. If you want to use my link in the description for Elman Games, you can get it for a slight discount of £54. But is it worth parting with your hard-earned cash? Let's have a look at the models, let's have a look at the rules, and let's see what we think at the end. Okay, first things first, let's look at the contents of the box, which are very handily listed here. You've got the 64-page handbook, 2 reference sheets, a card token sheet, 10 6-sided dice, 1 game board, and of course the ready-to-use MDF terrain, which has caused the internet to almost fall over. So you can see the Marine models and the Plague models, they are the Space Marine Heroes series models. Now, I've heard some comments that people are gutted that they actually went out and bought these models because they were significantly more expensive, particularly if you were importing them from Japan. So let's get into the box and let's see how it all looks. So you can see all the plastic goodness. Now, the first thing that jumps out at me, these are not particularly well arranged. They're not particularly well protected. Because they're all small individual sprues, they've moved around in the box. Now, this is how the box came. I was about to open it and have a look and thought I'll do the unboxing video. So hopefully there's no issues with them. We'll have a look at them all individually as well, so you can see what the sprues are. We'll have a look at a few of them built also. So let's get in. Let's pull these sprues out the way. We'll do them next once we've had a chance to look at the booklets, the contents, and that MDF terrain. Now, here's one of the issues of the box has been packed like this. You can see here that there's several bits have popped out. Now, I think this has come from here, but this part here has come off a different sprue. And this guy is very wobbly. Now, I know they are push out. They're designed that way. But obviously, with everything moving around, you're going to get some bits coming apart. So hopefully we haven't lost anything. So first up, we have the Angels of Death reference sheet. Now, I really like this because it's nice and big, so my aging eyes don't have too many problems. I imagine if these were cards, they'd be bigger still. But obviously, it's got everything you need. You can just fold this down on your desk, and it's got the different members of the kill team. Now, I assumed that you could have a kill team with all of these members in, but when you have a look at the rules later, you can see that actually you need to pick certain ones. So that was interesting to me. Now, I don't know if that's because this is a much more simplified version of Kill Team just to get people into it, or whether that's how the game itself plays. We also have one for the Plague Marines. Again, lovely artwork. The artwork at the moment coming out of Workshop is fantastic. And again, you've got the cards with all the information on there. They're all in one place. You don't have to go looking anywhere. So again, it really just helps simplify the process. Have a token sheet, which gives you everything you need to play. Now, you've got your measuring devices and tools here as well. Objective markers. Now, actually, I quite like these. Now, I know they're not going to be as hardware and perhaps as plastic, but having just something out of the box that's coloured, that's really, really nice. And I actually quite like the look of them. So I'm thinking I'm preferring these actually to the plastic ones. I know that having that 3D battlefield is important to some folks, and it really kind of helps a little bit more with the immersion, perhaps. But for me, I quite like the tokens because just makes it easy to get started, which I think is where, obviously this is where this set is designed. I just wanted to show you the divider. There's a little scissors icon here. So these are obviously going to, I'm assuming these may well be wound counters. So you need to cut all these. It's going to take you a little bit of time to cut them all out. You could probably, with a steel rule and a sharp knife, very carefully just slice down and around and do them that way. But again, more counters on here. And again, that's the box art on the front. So next up, we have, I'm going to guess, is the game board. Well, yeah, that's the game board. So let's pull that out. So the game board is too big to show on camera because I can't zoom out far enough for you to be able to see it. However, it is twice as big as this. So if I do that, that's one tile, and it's essentially 4 tiles this size. And it's got the decoration on that side, and it's also got a more Mars pattern style red on the other side. So you've got 2 different surfaces to play across. Next up, you have your starter handbook. Now, I found this really useful reading through it. I'm one of those people who struggles to understand how a game works. I don't know what it is, but I always have to have somebody show me. And when somebody shows me, I can get into it and I can learn it. And then I can go back and reference things like the rules. And that's probably one of the main reasons I don't play as much as perhaps I'd like. Looking at the starter handbook, if we take, obviously it's got information about how you pick your kill teams. It's got a little bit of lore in there as well, got the build instructions. So you can see all of the models are push fit. We'll have a look at them shortly, but they're all push fit. You don't need glue. So again, when we say this is a starter box, it really is a starter box. There's 2 different colour plastics. You've got green and blue, so it's very clear which team is which. You don't need glue. You can just pop them off the sprue as well. You don't need clippers. So that's an amazing way to get into the hobby. I've had conversations before. When I was on the Painting Phase podcast, we talked about the same. You don't necessarily know that you need clippers to clip them off the sprues. It might be obvious to us that have been in the hobby for a while, but this is really, really nice. So you've got all the build instructions. So I'm going to flick through them, obviously, but if you wanted to pause on a particular page to have a look, then you certainly can. So then we've got more information about the Space Marines, and then we've got all the basics, which goes into detail explaining how everything works, what all the tokens mean, really straightforward and simple stuff. And then we've got an introductory scenario. Now, when I was reading through the introductory scenario, I understood how to play Kill Team, which is obviously the main reason they've included this. But I just wanted to really emphasize that. So for somebody who struggles to pick up a game and understand how the mechanics are supposed to work, or how the rules work, and how everything interacts with it, obviously this is a much more simplified way of playing Kill Team. But actually I found it really beneficial because it really does talk you through how everything works, how you do your dice rolls, how you calculate things. And then it gives you tutorials. So all the rest of this book are tutorials on how to play Kill Team, adding in more rules as we work through it. And once I walked through it, do you know what? I was quite happy. I was quite excited to play Kill Team. Now, if you've seen my videos, you know that I've got the new core box. I love painting the models, but I did find that book a little bit intimidating to get into. So for me, this is really, really cool. So it tells you here, how to set up your table, how to move people, how to shoot. It's really good. I'm just flicking through this fairly quickly, but if you are like me, then this is the perfect way to get started with Kill Team. And it kind of makes me feel that, one of the key things about the new Kill Team that I really liked is that you can use generative enemies. So you can play against yourself, essentially, or play on your own solo against the generative enemies that the rules control. So having this as well really does feel like I will understand it better. So if I did then go to a club, or I wanted to play some proper games against another person, I'd kind of know what I was doing before I got into it. So I'm really impressed with this. This really is, like I said, it's fairly thin, but it really does have a lot of information packed in this for me to really help me understand how Kill Team works and to get into it. And the last thing to show you before we go and have a look at the sprues is the MDF terrain. So let's see. Now, I mentioned at the start, I saw the internet breaking down over things like this. And I just really looking at Facebook groups and things like that. And the title of this video is the new Kill Team for you? Well, if you're breaking down over the fact that there's MDF terrain in this, then probably no, this is not for you. You've probably got a fully painted board game table, you've got fully painted terrain, you've got fully painted Kill Teams. You don't need the pre-painted terrain that comes in this box. I say that with a bit of tongue-in-cheek because I know most of the people who have complained about that have definitely not got a fully painted set of terrain. And this is for beginners. It's a bona fide starter set. This box is, £67.50 in the UK, $118 maybe in the States. Like, that's a really good entry point, I feel, for Kill Team. I think Games Workshop have done a really good thing here because this just gets you up and running really fast. You don't have to build all the plastic terrain. Like, the Games Workshop plastic terrain is fantastic. However, there are so many mold lines you have to clean, and then you've got to paint it. It can take forever to get started, even just building it and playing with grey plastic. So this is a really quick and easy way of getting into it. So like with the sprues, we'll pop some of these out and build them. The other thing with this, now if I run my hand down the side, you can see there's nothing come off. Now, I had MDF terrain, I've had MDF paint stands, paint holders in the past, where the MDF is burnt, so the shape is burnt into it and cut out, all that residue is still on there. So I'm talking like things like TT Combat used to be really bad for this. They had fantastically beautiful MDF terrain, but the process they used meant it was still messy. It stunk of burnt wood. These don't smell of burnt wood. These feel a little bit more premium. And again, for the price tag, for what you get, I don't think you can go very wrong with this. Let's start with the MDF terrain then. And literally this just pops out like that. So I've not looked at the instructions, but this is 1A and 1B. I know you should never assume, but I'm going to guess that just, oh my gosh, there we go. So that is as complex as it gets. I mean, that's great. And look, you've got the pre-printed stuff. It looks good. And the other thing as well, when you're done, you can take it back apart and put it away. So it's really easy to store as well. So I know people want the full-on size 3D plastic terrain kits, and I don't think Games Workshop are going to stop making them because they've obviously invested a lot in the tooling. Now obviously, I've pulled this off so you can see there's a little bit of damage on the joint just there. So the more you take them apart and pull them down, the more damage they're going to get over time. But I guess the whole point of these is that it is literally a starter set to get people playing the game, enjoying the game, hopefully. So this is kind of like the gateway drug into more Kill Team, and then into the terrain, the core boxes, the different pack releases, and obviously, eventually, hopefully into 40k as well. And that's a good way of growing the hobby. So look, I'm not going to join the haters and the doubters. I don't think Games Workshop is going to make MDF terrain in every box set. I think they're going to keep making those plastic kits. If I'm proven wrong, I'm proven wrong. I do not mind. It's a little bit clean. You may want to dry brush some dirt and grime on the bottom there. But yeah, I think these are cool. I think it's a really nice innovation, and you can get playing really, really quickly, which is important. Let's do Space Marines first. So here you've got the Assault Intercessor, and you can see those connection points are very, very thin indeed. In fact, if I just, there we are, I've just popped that out. There's a small mark there that I'd have to clean off. But generally, that's really easy. Now, what I do find about these, and probably the Plague Marines, is the bases. I would love it if the foot was separate from the base, because you can then put your own base in, depending on how you want to model them. They all come with 2 head options. So we've got the bare head and the helmeted head. So yeah, that's the Assault Intercessor. Next up, we have just one of the normal Intercessors. And again, you can see he's got 2 head options. Again, really easy to pop out on the sprue. Again, foot on the base makes it difficult to create your own. Sorry, put the light on them. Again, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on these because you've probably seen them everywhere. This is the Heavy Gunner, which is a heavy intercessor with a heavy bolter. Again, base is slightly better on this one. You could put your own on if you want. Really interested to see how this is going to go together with the 2 halves there. Now, one thing I will say as well about these models is that whilst they are push fit and push out, and you don't need glue, I'm not a huge fan of push fit models because you tend to get a lot of gaps, and particularly on a model like this, you're potentially going to have some gaps. So it's going to be interesting to have a look at that. I like to cut mine off and use some glue. But again, for the beginner and the person who's just getting started, you can't ask for anything more straightforward. Next up, we have another intercessor, and this is the one throwing a grenade, which I think that's a really cool arm. I think this would be a really cool model to have in any army. Again, the boot is part of the base, but I suppose the plus side to that is, well, it's going to be really easy to stand it on there. You don't have to hold it there. While the glue sets, again, we've got 2 heads. Next up is the sniper. So again, very easy and simple kit. There's not many, but I think this might be the lowest part count model actually in the Space Marine side. We've got the 2 head options. I was thinking about how I'm potentially going to paint these. And I don't know if you've been playing Space Marine 2, but I have, and I've been really enjoying it. And I've got different chapters kind of set up with some of the different models. And if you want to play Space Marine 2 with me, then sign up to my Patreon, and there's a channel for gaming. You can play with me and some of my other patrons as well. Next up, we've got the Captain. Again, Power Fist and Plasma Pistol, which is the classic Captain loadout from Warhammer of days gone by. We've got the shouty head and the helmeted head. I'm not sure. I think I like the helmeted head, actually. I've got the iron halo there. One thing you might notice is we're missing something, and that's a tilt shield, which has popped off in the box because it only had one connection point. Bonus side to that is there's not many mold lines on it or connection points that you need to trim, but also it can be a bit fragile. And lastly, we have the Intercessor Sergeant. How do I know that? Well, he's got a little bit of extra panel on his arm there, and if you flip over and look at the helmets, he's got the skull icon there, which denotes that he's a sergeant. So again, nice cool model. Should be fairly straightforward to build and paint. Next we have the Plague Marines, and it's safe to say I haven't got a clue as to what what each of these are. I'll have to have a look through the box art, but again, some really nice detail. Contrast is perfect for Plague Marines. In fact, my first ever tutorial on the channel was Death Guard. And what I like as well, again, you've got two different head options, but also I think everyone has got a Nurgling for the base as well, and there's some fairly unique Nurglings on this as well. So I'm guessing with the heavy flail here, this might be kind of some assault style Marine. Sorry, I was doing you an absolute disservice there. So let's have a look. So this is a Plague Marine fighter. Oops. So this is a Plague Marine fighter. Hopefully you can see that. And the lights are not too bright. Let's just dim them slightly with his flail there. So that's that one. Next up, we have... this is quite a cool one. So obviously we're missing the base and we're looking a little bit loose. We've got the fly wings on the backpack, which are very cool actually. And then we've got a staff. And looking at... oh, there we are. So not Nurgling, but it looks like a little mini blight drone. And look at his hand, he has some sort of magic going on there. So I'm guessing that this is the Malignant Plague Caster. So a little bit of a psychic attack going on there with this one. Next up, we have what I'm going to assume is a heavy gunner, because we've got the big weapon here. Forgive me, I'm not 100% sure what the plague weapons are, but it looks fairly nasty anyway. Again, two different heads. In fact, that helmeted head, is that the bear head? Oh, that looks that's disgusting. That bear head there, that looks it reminds me a little bit, it's like something out of Pirates of the Caribbean and the Curse of the Black Pearl, the crew on that's what that reminds me of. And it's good to see that with the helmet on there, you've still got the bits on there, and because he's a heavy guy, he's got a nice chunky Nurgling on there as well. But that reminds me a little bit of Slimer from Ghostbusters. Okay, so this one has bolter, grenade, nice funky Nurgling. So the reason I'm being hesitant actually is because this hand has thrown me because of this extension here. So I wonder if that's part of a weapon or if it's part of the armor. I mean, we'll only really see when it's built up. I'm going to guess that this one is where's the backpack? Backpack's there. So this is a Plague Marine Bombardier. I'm not sure in the exact pronunciation. And yes, looking at it, that is actually the pin from this grenade that is being thrown. Then we have the Plague Marine Champion with the rather disgusting Plague Blade and a plasma pistol. Nice backpack, and the Nurgling is on the top of the backpack on this one as well. So again, quite cute little Nurgling going on there. But feel free to pause the video if you want a closer look at the sprues. Obviously, they'll be on the Warhammer website as well. And next up, we have another Plague Marine Warrior, I believe this one is. So again, you've got the nice Nurgling, you've got the two different heads. Oh, there's an extra Nurgling on this one as well, which is really nice and quite funky. He's got a nice blade then, a nice Plague Blade. I'll show you how to paint them. In fact, I've already got tutorials on how to paint Plague Blades. They're really quite easy and simple. And lastly, we have the Icon Bearer. Obviously, the icon is separate just there. But again, another nice kit. I'm looking forward to putting some of these together and seeing how they go. And what I might do is build them to see how easy it is, and then have a look at the mold line situation afterwards, and then just kind of clean them up. So those are the two kill teams and the terrain for the new kill team starter set. Let's put some together and have a look at them. So I've built both kill teams, and honestly, it's taken me about maybe just over an hour to get both of them built. That's pushing them out of the sprues, putting them together, and put them on the bases. There's no glue involved in any of this. All the parts are still loose, and of course all the mould lines and clip marks are still on them. So let's have a little look through them. We'll do the Space Marines first. So you've got the Captain first off, and obviously you will have seen the painted versions of these. And you can see the little sprue leftover marks there, but I mean, I'll go back in and clean that up afterwards. But generally, if we move on to the heavy gunner, a little bit of an issue. I did accidentally snap that purity seal off because I was a little overzealous, so I've glued that back on. Generally, no issues with them whatsoever in terms of putting them together. I like the fact there's no glue though, because when I do paint them, I can take the arms off, and that's going to make life a lot easier. The sniper, I think, was probably the easiest to put together. And I've got to say, I'll show you a little bit more on the Plague Marines, but actually for push-fit models, they're actually pretty good. The gap on them is not bad at all. Now, I did have to, on some of the models, use my clippers because I just couldn't push the part out without damaging it. But again, really cool model, dynamic pose, throwing the grenade. I like the smoke is attached to the arm there, and he's obviously got his mechanical arm, so that's really cool. We've got the Intercessor Sergeant reloading. Again, went together really easy, really nicely. So it'll all come apart when you paint it. And then we've got the Assault Intercessor and the other Intercessor as well. So gone for a mix of bare heads and helmets. I can feel them in my hands. They are a little bit loose, but generally in terms of getting ready to play, you know, if there's two of you building them, it's going to take even less time than it took me. So here's the Plague Icon Bearer. So again, really cool. Fits together quite nicely, very intuitively. You can twist and move and take all the bits off if you need to paint them to get into some of those nooks and crannies, which is nice. It's a Plague Warrior. I think this is the one, in fact, I think this is one Infernal Brush has done a video tutorial on, which is, I mean, obviously the result's fantastic, but it's a really cool model as well. I've gone for a mix of bare and helmeted heads, but generally they all push together quite well. In terms of, you can see the gaps there. All right, you can just about see the seam line where they push together the weapons, but it seems to be okay. Now, Plague Champion did have an issue with him. It had to glue the backpack on because the pin actually had snapped off, and I think that may well be due to the box and how loose they were. And you can also see that it's not quite snug in there as well underneath, but he's got his little nurgle in there. Then we've got the Malignant Plague Caster, which I think is bordering on my favourite model in the box. These bits here are very, very fragile, so be careful with them. But what I really like is once you push them in and get the joint right in there, you can't tell. And it comes together really nicely. It's quite clever as well. Again, he can pop off that nurgling or that fly. He can pop off to make it easy to paint as well. The Heavy Gunner was the one that gave me the most issues out of the Death Guard. And you can probably see that the changing colour there on the weapons, because I almost snapped it, trying to figure it out. So the instructions weren't brilliant in terms of how this all goes together. You can probably see the gap there between the hand and the gun, which needs tightening up, but we'll do that with the glue. And again, generally, I mean, you can kind of feel it. You can feel the hollowness of it, but it'll hold together fine for a game. So if you're just starting out, you just want to get playing, then it's absolutely no issue at all. We've got the Close Combat Warrior. I thought, it doesn't need a helmet. He's got his flail with nurgling hanging off it there as well, and a massive plague knife on his backpack. So again, a nice model, goes together really easily and simply. Like I said, the push fit on these is much better than like the push fit on some of the starter boxes that, in my experience. Like, I've got very little issues with gaps on these models, whereas with starter box models, you do tend to get quite a bit. So this is the Bombardier. Not sure the correct pronunciation. I suppose it might be different depending on what part of the world you are. But again, another really cool model. He'll pop off to make it easy to paint, make the nurgling easy to paint. We'll need a little bit of cleanup, but generally to get started, you know, you can't complain. So what's that, 14 models in, you know, put together in about an hour, just over an hour. If there's two of you doing it, fantastic. And you can get playing a game straight away. You don't have to worry about painting, priming, all those things. So I think generally, if this is your first foray into Kill Team, or you just want to try it, and for the price point we're talking about here, I really don't think you can go wrong. So there we go. That's everything inside the brand new Kill Team starter set. Now, you could probably get where I'm going with this just from the video. I was actually quite impressed. As a gateway box to bring people into the hobby, I think it's fantastic. The models look great. They're only push fit. Yes, you can go in and you can clean them up more. You can glue them. You can paint them. But in terms of getting something on the table, if you and your friend go halves on this box, I think that's really, really good value proposition. And you can be playing within about a half hour of actually getting everything ready and popped out. That includes building the terrain and playing through the tutorial scenarios, which I think are really important. Like I said, for someone like me who's not really a gamer. So you can see the fully painted models on the Games Workshop website to get an idea of what they might look like or when you finish with them. I'm going to be painting my Space Marine kill team following my Space Marine 2 characters. So make sure you tune in to one of my next videos where you get to see how I've done all that. We're going to have a nice kill team full of different chapters. Like I said, if you want to get the box at a discount and you're in the UK, check out that link in the description for Element Games. I really do think it's a great box. So thank you so much for watching. Please check out my other content because there's loads of it on the channel. If you're not sure how to paint something, I'm pretty sure I've got a video on it. So with that in mind, I'll see you next time.